Hello again, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. I join you today, or you join me, or we join one another, where I'm wearing one of my many wool work sweaters that I actually just really like. I think they're pretty fashionable, and wool is actually an amazing fabric. Wool and linen, just as an intro note here, they have a frequency measured in hertz that is somewhere around 5,000, like a very high vibration. Our human bodies a healthy human body will vibrate somewhere between 68 to 75, or like 65 to 75 kind of range. I think different parts of us kind of have different frequencies, but the body as a whole unit is just like we're meant to maintain a certain temperature, a certain core temperature. We're also meant to maintain a certain core frequency, and there's some fabrics that have little to no frequency at all, like a lot of athletic wear, things of that nature, like very synthesized fabrics that aren't as common in nature and have a lot more processing to it than more basic things like linen and wool. Linen and wool will increase our vibration, or they'll, have beneficial effects more so than fabrics that are basically dead or non-living. Anything with a frequency has some level of life to it, and that's something to be embraced, I believe. Cotton is good too. I think cotton has a fairly low frequency, but it jives with the body. Organic cotton is a good one. But yeah, here I am in my wool sweater. Winter is coming. Unless you're in the southern hemisphere, then winter is out of here. But today, it's enough about fabrics. I've pretty much exhausted my knowledge of them. Today's video is going to be on words. The words we use to make statements about ourselves, that we use to cast spells on ourselves. We spell words, and words spell us. It's one way to think about it. Words are, universal language is something that's of great interest to me. It always has been, and the further I go in life, the more that I realize how deep of an interest that I have in language and the purity of language, as well as the impurities too. For instance, the English language has been beaten up pretty good in the last century or so, which is fine. It allows for more discernment from people in order to choose their words better. The more options, the more specific and meaningful our words get to be based on how we use them. And to relate wool to words is our words that we use to describe ourselves, to describe our current state, to describe our past, to describe our views of ourselves, to describe our views of others, to describe our views of the world. They are what carve out our frequencies. And our held frequencies, meaning the frequency that you hold over time, is what creates our state. And your state is your suit of how you feel that you wear while you observe and engage with this world, with your world. Claiming that you don't feel is really like saying the way that you've learned to feel is the only comfortable position that you can use your mind in. So you remain there, and there being the baseline of what you identify within yourself at any given moment. And that baseline changes very little. And if it does change, then it's a brief instance where it changes, and you're able to use one of various coping methods in order to bring yourself back to your relatively numb baseline state. And I don't mean that with any type of negative connotation to it. I think it's a widespread thing that people nowadays, we as people, to varying degrees, tend to operate from an unconscious type of state where we aren't as much in tune with the nuance and the subtleties and the flow of how we feel throughout the day. Our feelings are meant to guide us, and if we numb ourselves to them, we don't have them available to speak from, to communicate with, to be authentic by. Instead, we're left repeating unconscious patterns that at one time we adopted because they served a purpose at the time, and that's what makes up our primary style of life. The times when we do snap into consciousness, it can be a bit startling, almost like someone just woke you up. And people typically don't like to be woken up. People like to wake up under their own volition. Sometimes people don't like to wake up, which is an interesting analogy of self. If you find that you don't want to wake up physically a lot, think how that might be a reflection of how you operate from most times during the day. I've gone through bouts where I don't want to wake up necessarily. I like waking up now. It's exciting. There's information for me as soon as I wake up. Information from my body, information from my dreams, feedback from my environment. And one of many ways that we can use to be more awake, to challenge our unconscious minds, to challenge our embedded programming, is to see words that we use, to see the sentences that we construct from what's inside. To see words that we share as both an output and an input simultaneously. Meaning, our words have to vibrate off of ourselves in order to move out into the world. So, as we say our words, we feel them as well. Whether or not you consider yourself a feeler, you're a human. You can suppress your ability to feel, which has its utility. If you want to grind your life away and put your head down and repeat things that prove to earn you money and earn you status and earn you a life that maybe you chose for yourself, or maybe that you allowed to be chosen for you, then you can do that. You can do that by suppressing feelings. If you want to solve your internal issues and really create an equilibrium between the inside world and the outside world and how those communicate simultaneously, feeling seems necessary. Embracing feeling as a guide, as a communicative tool, as something to speak from. And I like the term speaking from the body when thinking about that. Your body's always going to speak, but if you are ignoring it habitually, even intentionally, it will it will always tag along with your words. Meaning, if you don't feel safe, if you feel anxious, you can suppress it if you'd like and go through the motions and speak unconsciously. And whether or not people in your circle notice or not, that anxiety, that uncertainty, that fear, it vibrates through your body as the words come out. In that way, your words have power, they have resonance. Perhaps you've done it for so long and in such a habitual way that that's how people just see you. People might say, oh, that's just the way you are. And they accept you for it because likely they are also reflections of that to some degree in their own way. That's why people group together, because they're like-minded, they're like-bodied. We have the idea of being like-minded. What about like-bodied? What about people that resonate similarly? So you speak words as they're coming out, they vibrate off of your insides. They either align with how your body truly feels, meaning they represent it well, almost as if it's your emotional counsel, like a lawyer, doing the best to speak in a way that honors self, choosing words that don't condemn self. So they vibrate off of you, they go out, they communicate with people, likely. Those people, as they hear them, the words vibrate into them, and their response or reaction to you gets mirrored back to you. And the words that you say, depending on how authentic you speak from, will or can wake a person up in that moment, send them into more of a conscious state. Or they can remain in some lower frequency, some frequency that where there's definite dysbiosis, and it will resonate with their dysbiosis and likely offer them the ability to remain unconscious as well. So in that way, you really do create your own reality. You really are the change or unchanging of your environment based on how authentic you can be to yourself. Not what words come to mind. When you're not speaking from the body, the words, if there isn't some sort of harmony with the way words are resonating through our bodies, our thoughts are likely going to try to overcompensate or overwork, over-logicize, and it just makes a little bit more complexity. It doesn't create a greater sense of ease. It creates more stress when you're overusing one system to make up for the fact that you're not using your energy body, your physical body, like an instrument. Who wants to listen to an untuned guitar? Who wants to listen to an instrument that's out of tune in general? Who wants to listen to anyone who doesn't know their own instrument? You don't have to be a professional. Just have to have some tuning. Tune yourself with your words and how they come out of the body, how they come out of your body. So you speak words, they resonate off you, they vibrate, you send them out into the environment, people hear them, it bounces off of them, it travels through them, it comes back to you in the form of their response, their reaction, how they look at you, how they receive you, how they respond to you. And then there's a third party that's always listening, which is the universe itself. We're always in the universe. Even if you're in a room by yourself with nobody else there, you're always in the universe. Before you're in your room, before you're in your country, before you're on the planet's where it starts to actually get important in terms of paying respect to, because the planet is a conscious being with its own frequencies and vibrations that I don't have anything else to say about the planet right now. Thank you, planet Earth. Very grateful to be a resident here and a cog for the empire, the planet, and then the universe. The universe is the room that we're all in. And the universe will always listen. It's always listening to whether or not you're speaking authentically. It wants to help. It just wants to add to your situation. If you look at numerology, one of the most basic parts of it is that it's all addition. There's multiplication. As you get into more advanced things and polarities and whatnot, I believe there's more aspects of the math, but the basic thing is that it's always adding. It's not taking away from. Rarely is it taking away from you. It wants to add to what you have. So in that sense, when people say to be positive, to be optimistic, that's really a representation of that the universe wants to add to your situation. And where you direct your attention, where you direct how you feel, how well you can honor how you feel, how well you can change how you feel and create and alchemize your own situation and your own experiences in order to better represent the version of self that you're traveling at the speed of light toward. That seems like what it's all about. And sometimes there's the idea of minimizing things, doing away with, detaching from material items, detaching from possessions that possess us, that crowd our space. It's not so much that we need to subtract them from our lives. To me, it's more so that we just need to move away so that we can have things so that it's more easy for the universe to add to us, because in order for the universe to add and offer us more, we need to have some space in order to see and accept the message. Because being conscious truly means not living in Groundhog Day. Being conscious really means going through what's necessary in your life, but not doing it in such a way where everything's decided for you already. We have the privilege of choice. We were given free will, and with the power of free will also, it enables a lot of things. I used to be more on the fence about free will and the whole ideology and whatnot, and I see the argument a little bit more for what it is at this point, the discussion. Free will, you can object to anyone having free will if you just put all of your chips into environmental conditioning, and the entire world is already created, and you're just running off programming. That really what that's speaking about is that people are operating mostly from the unconscious or subconscious mind. They aren't making decisions for them. They're not making decisions for themselves moment to moment to moment. How do you avoid falling into that? How do you avoid being programmed from somewhere else? Be intentional about everything that you do. Now, of course, that sounds like a hard feat. It's something to move toward. A way to move toward that in small steps is if you drive to a similar spot every day, sometimes take a different route. Break the unconscious pattern, and new things will present themselves to you. New clues, new messages. And what I'm getting at here, what I'm getting at is everything that I'm saying. With words, choose your words differently to represent yourself until you find sets of words that make you feel better, that make you feel like you understand how you feel better. When you continue to when you say throwaway phrases that are sort of disrespectful to the universal resonance that connects your internal world to the outternal world back into the internal, just a mirror of sound and vibration constantly. When you don't pay respect to that, you may feel lost. You may feel like there's no meaning in life. You may feel like this is it, death and taxes. And it's not. We can all see the system that's been tried in its current form is one that's not going to work long term, and new things are going to come of it. And how you feel about yourself now and how well you can be authentic to your feelings is going to be what drives you into the new world. If you want to think that, if all you want to focus on is how there's unfairness and slavery and infinite debt and starving children, those things are happening. Those things don't need you to feel for them. Those things don't need you to synchronize to them. The world and the universe needs you to be strong. And strength doesn't come from throwing a brick at a cop when your time comes. A revolution is occurring, and the brick, you can put the brick down and take a look inside. That energy that you throw the brick with is powerful. Redirect it and alchemize it into being authentic to self and expressing that authenticity in front of people that are going to mirror it back to you safely with a sense of trust and non-judgment. So when you don't respect the universal resonance of how your words are mirrored, like I was saying, you may continue to feel lost because your higher self cannot reach you. Your higher self always wants to speak with you, to give you information, whether that higher self be anything, however you personify it. You can personify it because we kind of want to put, I think it's natural that we want to put some sort of name or face to what we're being kind of given as we listen, what we're being shown. And that's fine. It could be angels, it could be spirits, it could be God, it could be the universe, it could be your ancestors, your family members who've passed on. It can be anything like that. The more in touch and in tune you are with how you feel and how well you can create a relationship, a symbiotic relationship with how you express yourself through words, how you represent, basically how well you can represent the internal vibrations and change those into words and give them out. The closer those are to being transposed well, as if it's like a musical notations or musical language. It is musical language. The better you can transpose that, the clearer the conduit of access that you have to these other versions, to these higher selves, to these others that want to speak into you, that want to guide you. When you say things like, I don't care, and I don't give a fuck, and who cares, and that's just da 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 da. That's just the way I am. That's just da 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 da. These are kind of phrases I'm taking from my own life and what I've heard and said as well. When we say those things, it's an end of discussion type of thing. It's closing oneself off to receiving. It's shutting down the receiver. And I blame no one for that. We have a lot of things that can get in the way if we allow them. However, it appears that humans are stronger than all of them. We're stronger than viruses. We're genetically coded with such sophistication and such an embedded and deeply rooted relationship with the universe, with the earth, with one another. It's like so heavily encrypted, and we are the programmers to alter things for ourselves and for others, and ultimately for the planet. The more authentic we can be to self, meaning the less that we lie, the less that we exaggerate, the less that we embellish, the less that we alter at the last second as the word's coming out, the better access that we have to our own memories. If we want to lie to others, to lie to the world in order to hide our pasts, that's something you can do. You can do that your whole life if you'd like. Likely with varying results. People can get really good at lying outwardly in order to achieve outwardly. And with that, the inward world will suffer. In that sense, you can't get away with lying, because you can't truly get away from yourself. As if you're having, let's say you're having a discussion, an argument, and something like that with another person, and there's some sort of a little battle in the conversation as about in terms of how, let's say you've been to a water park twice in your life, and another person has been there as well. You don't know how many times they've actually been there, but you're both talking about the things that are there. And let's say there's 4 water slides. Let's say there actually is 4 water slides. You remember it as 3. They remember it as 4. For some reason, both of you are invested in the outcome of who is going to be correct in this situation. It's a hierarchical thing. Let's say it's at work, so there's always like a jockeying for hierarchical matters, and you don't want to submit, you don't want to concede to another person, because there's actually a subliminal concession at that moment that would mean that they actually know more than you, and maybe they would get ahead of you at work if you were to give in like that. So instead, as you're trying to prove your point, you know you've only been there twice, and you know twice isn't enough. In your head, you don't believe that twice is enough for someone to buy what you say. So you say, well, I've been there a ton of times. Let's say I've been there a bunch of times, or I've been there like 1,000,000 times. Things like that. People will bring it to that level as a way of sending the point home so much that the person basically just has to accept it. Or it becomes moot, like there's no winner, because you went to that level, and to a bunch of unconscious minds they have their mind elsewhere on different tasks and stuff, and they'll just kind of accept, okay, nothing changed from that. This person committed to what they said, each person committed to what they said, and it becomes moot. And people do that because they know if they say something that's less refutable, it'll drive the point home more, and it'll score you either a win or a draw in the conversation. And when you do that, when you change the truth at the last second as it's coming out, your body reacts to it. This is unavoidable. Nobody is exempt from this. Some people might feel the need to refute that, as if they themselves are somehow operating in isolation in this reality. The body keeps the score, right? Your bones keep the score, your tissues keep the score, your muscles keep the score, and they're constantly playing the game. And if you don't align with them and move in the same direction that they're communicating you to, they will move against you, and now they become the opposing team. Now you're playing against yourself, and you're not even looking at the opposing team. You're trying to ignore that they're there, and they're gonna dunk on you, dog. You don't get to decide the whole truth. It already is. The more we can accept and embrace that and speak it out, ideally in front of people, if you want to practice this in front of people that you trust and that love you and care about you. And it's fine if you kind of fear judgment from them, because it's a good exercise in being authentic, and then seeing that people that truly love you, they don't react or explode on you for the truth. It inspires them. You inspire others by being authentic and honest in as complete of a way as you can, without omitting details. It's easy to say, well, I don't have to say the whole story or whatever. You don't. You can leave parts out for the time being. I encourage everyone to move more toward being, if you know more to it, if more exists within your mind, then share that. Share that eventually with people who love you. And then share it with the world and inspire others through what used to be your darkness. We'll shine light on all of our darkness. So when you try to change the truth in a moment, when you're sharing it and you're trying to achieve a result in the outside world through lying, what happens is your authenticity in that moment is diminished, meaning your vibration changes, which people sometimes pick up on. That's why people can tell if people are lying. You can be a good liar, you can be a master of suppression. If you're suppressing lies your whole life, cancer, disorder, disease. You're suppressing your systems when you lie. You could be brilliant at it, but you're suppressing the truth. So the truth becomes, if you're so good at suppressing the truth, the energy has to go somewhere, and it'll manifest in disease. It'll manifest in your tissues rotting away. You're trying to alter reality by not honoring it when you lie. That seems like an equation for chaos. My mail's here. Time to move. And to me, it really feels like we're heading into a time where vibration is going to become more of an apparent variable to communication. Meaning that people's emotional intelligence on a baseline is going to elevate. Meaning, if you continue to lie, if you continue to hide yourself and try to manipulate reality in the present moment by disregarding by avoiding yourself, and then through force, people are detecting that easier. It's becoming more of an availability in terms of language and what we see and what we feel. Authenticity will therefore be rewarded at a greater frequency, meaning more often, than those who just know what to say at the right time, or those who know how to get something out of others by saying certain things. That, thankfully, is something that's going away. Think about it in the material world right now, the political scene. Nobody trusts politicians. It's an act. When I look at these days, if I look at the news of even the politicians that I like, that seem of high integrity, I will look at them, look at the discourse, and I don't necessarily feel bad. What I feel like I'm watching, meaning if I'm saying I don't feel bad because, if someone's clearly lying, it's almost like hurts, it's like cringy. When something's cringy, you see so far beyond it that it causes you some sort of emotional response. It's not that. I don't actually get that at this point. I'm just like, this just seems like theater. It seems like an act. So it's kind of benign, but I don't think we want it to be benign. I think we want the global discourse and the global movement and the global leadership to be uplifting, to be strengthening, to be something that provides a sense of peace and clarity and safety and hope and belief. None of those things exist anymore, so it seems like a TV show, which I think is good. It doesn't carry weight any longer. If it doesn't carry weight, it's easier to detach from. And one thing I can say, if you want to experience more space within yourself, if you want to have the bandwidth, if you want to free up more internal bandwidth for yourself to understand all of the things you might see as mistakes now, the things that brought you to this point, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful. If you want to understand and embrace those and accept those things so that they don't haunt you, so that they don't increase so much memory usage in your mind. Authenticity, speaking from your body. Your words and how they resonate outward, being in tune with how you feel inwardly. That creates a sense of authenticity, a higher vibration, a greater sense of ease, an amazing environment to change from. Possibly the only type of environment to change from. And because of this shift in how we're experiencing one another, I think it's very important to see people, to communicate with people directly, so that we can feel the energy coming off of them. It's good practice. I don't believe people that make decisions for other people should be allowed to hide. Maybe allowed is not the word, but if a person who is making a lot of global decisions is not presenting themselves to the world and speaking free form, meaning not always having things written for them, but actually speaking from their body, that is a danger. It's dangerous for them and humanity. We want to be able to exercise our senses when we perceive others in the moment. Not make assumptions and not jump to conclusions and not just be dictated to. And that goes for inside of ourselves too. Don't try and dictate to yourself how you feel. When I was driving home this morning, a few of the feelings that I felt, I had a theme of a couple different things that came up, and I'm like, based on what I'm feeling right now, I said this to myself, based on what I'm seeing and feeling with myself, there's a certain level of frustration. I just honored it and I spoke it out. I'm not condemning myself with it. It was in the moment. And through that, it'll change. If it hasn't already, I feel great. So something that I've realized, and this is going to start to branch into another video, an exercise that I'm going to offer. I'm very excited to shoot. When you're truly inside of yourself and you're not running from yourself, and your thoughts as well as your voice has resonated through your body enough for you to be able to understand your own space, and to some degree your body is sealed, a concept that I've gone into in a previous video that I'll continue to expand on. I feel it's extremely relevant. When you are in that state of self-authenticity, I don't think when you go into your mind and you're perceiving a situation that may occur or manifesting some image or reality for yourself, whether it be even just small, maybe a conversation with a friend. Let's say a conversation with a friend, basically. I do not think that it's even possible for us to speak for another inside of ourselves. In order to, you have to leave your body. Meaning your body has to almost react in a way where it pushes you out to some degree so that you are in that moment not unidentified as yourself spatially. When you reside inside of yourself, and this is a state that you can claim with proper exercises and awareness and authenticity and being in alignment with where you're meant to be going, where you chose to go, all of these things. The only thing that you can truly imagine is how you'll be. You can picture other things, you can picture other people being there and their energy, but I don't think that we can speak for others. We don't have access to other people's thoughts. There's a place for assuming, because that's really what it is, right? You're trying to assume what an outcome from another person is to try to practice how to best form yourself to that future thing, which is not a bad thing. It's like a safety measure. I understand that, but it's an attachment to a particular outcome, and typically we're never gonna get to that outcome. So it's a moot thing to try to practice other people's reactions. It's likely that you're safe right now. So why are you predicting that you're not going to be safe when you have a conversation with someone? One example is if you're in this thing of yourself, this mental movie, let's say, having a conversation, having a future conversation with a person, a friend, and your tongue, and then you start to go through their response and you feel your tongue moving, you've left yourself. You're trying to control an outcome. Something else inside of you is projecting uncertainty with your ability to remain authentic and feel safe in that future moment. A reason that I have just realized this, a reason this has come to me, is I was doing that. And I had such a high sense of constitution of being in my own self that when something inside of me had the reflex to try to communicate through another person back to me in a mental movie, I felt like hitting my forehead hit the wall, almost like in a video game where you try to go, you're in a big sandbox game and then like you reach the outer limits of the game and you just get pushed back by this like invisible bubble. And I felt a lot of fatigue here in my frontal cortex, which I believe is what we use to predict things to some degree. I'm sure it has a ton of functions. But my frontal cortex, I felt, and then after I kind of let it go, right? I didn't go into it any further, and I actually felt how this frontal cortex, it's almost as if it couldn't breathe. There wasn't proper circulation, respiration traveling through that area. And I'm like, I wonder how many times I've done that in my life and actually suffocated my own ability to see into the future by putting so much energy into what other people may say, which I don't have the authority to. Every time I would have to leave my body, and then things like my frontal cortex, it's like my soul kind of leaves my body to some degree. It leaves the boundaries enough so that these parts of my brain can operate in isolation, and it fatigues them. It's not good for them. It conditions them poorly. It suffocates and chokes them. It's kind of like a one-man show where a guy's on a stage and he's playing all the characters. So he stands here and then he talks to nobody that's here, but then he goes over here and then he talks back to that guy who is just himself. Think about how exhausting that is. You're never fully in one place. You're always thinking about how you're moving your energy into the next place, into the next person. I don't think that is how the system is meant to operate, based on the feedback that I've gotten from my own. In that way, it really is a spacesuit that we're inside of. Continue to occupy your spacesuit, or what's outside is a vacuum, and a vacuum is going to suck your energy. And then returning to it, you're going to be all crinkled up to some degree. The parts of you, because you gave the energy to something outside of yourself, your suit gets slightly crushed. So something I'd like to leave you with, this is kind of just some basic parameters of a way you can begin to perceive everything I've spoken about in this video. It's something I'm going to share an exercise with in the future that'll be a little bit more condensed and accessible. But for now, this is what I leave you with. Take an easy thing that's easy for you to imagine, like a conversation with a friend that we've already spoke about. So like a conversation that you know you need to have, or you're going to have, or you have had, and it's maybe in the past tense, and you're going to relive it, to whatever degree. And it's going to be you explaining something, or you voicing your opinion, or you expressing yourself, or you emphasizing your point, or even you cussing someone out. That's not ideal, but if that's where your energy kind of lies, then go ahead for now. Take that scenario and begin to let it play out. Do your best to be aware of everything, every part of your body, the way your face and your expression and the tension in your face is held, your rib cage, your shoulders, your hips, everything, the weight of things, the tension that wants to build, the directions you want to be pulled. Just try to pay attention to that. Having a whole body awareness is something to be carved out and crafted over time. Understanding the parts so that you can kind of put the parts into larger parts, so that you can just think about larger parts, and the larger parts move the smaller parts. That's kind of like, I think, the goal with really integrating things, is to eventually not have to micromanage so many parts of your body, but to see them as a whole and be able to perceive them as a whole. Being the observer of yourself from a broad view, while in fact being within you. Having space. Seeing your body as a massive football field that you can be aware of all the perimeter of simultaneously. all the players on, you know? So allow the thought to play out in whatever way it initially would like to. And then try to play it back again with more control over your tone, over your words, over your tempo. And as you start to control that, the tension in your body, the parts of your body that are firing to a high degree, that want to draw your attention away so that chaos can ensue in your mind, as you control yourself in this projection, the excess of your body that's being shrunken and pulled in poor directions will start to present itself to you. And the goal here is to, once you start to realize that and become aware of it, try to relax, try to maintain the space of your suit that you're holding, but relax that tension, relax those anchor points inside of that suit. Keep the space, keep the structure, and downregulate the energy. And as you slowly downregulate that, you gain more space to be different in that memory, in that image, in that projection, in that manifestation. Your body is the shell of your reality. The more coherent it is, the more you have control over how you use it, how you use your mind, what you're able to see yourself doing and feel yourself doing and hear yourself doing. So that's all for now. I hope this video has been of value to you. I've enjoyed making it. It's things that I need to hear as well. I'm happy to speak them out and practice my own authenticity and transpose what's inside into words, into what I share, into how I come across, into how I feel as I'm coming across, as I'm sharing things outwardly. It's cathartic for me. And I'll go back and watch it and I'll see the points that I'd like to alter as well. And through that, more authenticity will be discovered. So I wish you all the best. This has been a pleasure. Until next time.